much talk about this case study topic under strategic management. So I want to believe by the end of this discussion, we shall be able to allay all fears around this topic. There's really no big deal about case studies. All you just need to know about case studies is to have a fundamental idea of what it entails, of how to go about it. Otherwise, there's no big deal. Most of us should be very familiar with the common comprehension that we take when we write examinations in English language. You'll be asked to read a passage, and then you are asked to answer questions based on the story or the passage that you just read. So the only difference between the regular comprehension or the common comprehension kind of questions that we have in English language is that for case study, most times, the questions may not be so specific. Most of the questions are so ambiguous. And the essence of giving you a passage to read and then, to analyze or to say something about is for the examiner to test your understanding, to test your ability to apply concept, residual knowledge that you have acquired over time, and how to apply this knowledge in tackling real life situations, in solving real life problems. So cases or case studies are just simply description of real life issues, whether be it in the business sector or in science or what have you. We have case studies all over. It only helps the student to come in close proximity with reality at no risk. Unlike you going in on the field to face whatever you want to face, with all the risk involved. That's just the benefit, and that's the nature of case studies in general. So there's no big deal really about case studies. It is there to test your knowledge about all you've been taught, about your understanding about the course. All right? Test your knowledge of business, because we're talking about business here. So there are basically three types of case studies, and these are distinguishable based on the nature of the question attached to the case studies. All the stories are the same. All the comprehension passages, if I should use that word, are the same. But what distinguishes one kind of case study from the other is how the questions are being formulated, how they are being constructed. So like I said, there are three types of case studies. Number one, you have the close-ended case study. This simply means the kind of questions you find after reading the passage are close-ended. They are specific in nature. They will tell you to talk about, most times, what you read in the passage. They are trying to see how well you can sort out information from whatever you have been presented, how well you can separate useful information from useless ones. So that is how some of these questions can come. And sometimes too, even if that is the case, you are permitted to, take verbatim what you have in the passage and present as your answer. And in situations whereby the questions are specific, but your answers are not directly embedded in the passage, what you then are required to do is to show your knowledge or understanding of previous concepts or teachings or studies that is in line with what is being discussed in the passage. That is what, or how to tackle, or that is what the first kind of case study is all about, which is close-ended case studies. The questions are usually very specific and direct. You can get that out from the passage easily. They are so easy to answer. They are very similar to what we have in the English language comprehension that we most of us are very conversant with. Now, the second type of case studies is what is known as the open-ended case studies. The open-ended case study is so-called open-ended because the questions are indeed open-ended. At the end of the passage, the questions are not specific. Majority of them and most of the time are really ambiguous. Now, another way to know that you are dealing with an open-ended kind of case study is when there isn't any question at the end of the comprehension passage. No specific question. They can just give you a story and leave it to you to make your deductions on what they really want you to do. So, though even this is not often time, seen in examination. So, but that is how to differentiate between the close-ended case study and the open-ended case study. The close-ended case study is always specific when the questions are presented. The open-ended is not specific, it's not direct, and sometimes there are no questions. And when you have them, they are usually ambiguous. I'll give us examples as we move on. The third kind of case study is what is known as the hybrid case study. By hybrid, it simply means the combination of both the open and the close-ended case study. So when you read a comprehension passage and you see the question, you go through the question, you realize that it's a combination of both. You'll find questions that are open-ended and questions that are also close-ended. So the combination of both open-ended and close-ended is known as the hybrid ended or hybrid case studies. Hybrid case studies. So with that being said, the smartest way to approach a case study question in the examination hall is to always go first for the question. You study the question. You try to see if they are being asked an open-ended or a closed-ended question, or if it's a combination of both, which is the hybrid. And in situations where there are no questions at all, then you have a good understanding that what you are being asked to do is an open-ended kind of case study. So when you check and you have discovered the nature of the question that you are being asked, the next thing for you to do is quickly run through the passage. This is what Dr. Dickson Ogbechi will refer to as the fast reading. You run through it quickly rather. You run quickly through the passage and have, a rough sketch, a rough look at what the passage is really trying to say. And when you've done that, you can go back to the questions again and have an idea of what they are asking you to answer. When you get that straight, you go back to the passage one more time, but this time you take your time. When you get to the examination hall, the first thing you do again is to check the questions. Forget about the story. Check the questions to see if it's a closed, open, or a hybrid case study. So when that is done, you've noted that down, you can then have a quick browse through the passage, taking note of key points. And then, you can then go back to the question and see exactly what you want to answer, what they are asking you to do, and then you go ahead and solve it. That is how to attack or approach a case study problem. We shall now try to look at one or two examples of a close-ended case study. If you have not gotten the fundamentals of business policy and strategy by Dr. Dickson Ogbechi, I please recommend this book for you to go and get it. It will solve 80% of your problem on case study. Please go and get this book. It will do you a whole lot of good. If you have the book, you can simply open to page 343. There's a case study on a company called Dan Valnio Nigeria Limited. Dan Valnio Nigeria Limited was registered in 2000 as a limited liability company with the Corporate Affairs Commission of Nigeria. The company started full operations in the year 2001 with 5 members of staff. The company's head office is presently in Lagos, and it is functioning within the limits of the law, striving to excel at all times and to be the reference point in all its areas of operation. Its areas of operation include the production and marketing of awards of various forms, plaques, crystals and acrylics, etc., branding of promotional items, corporate jewelries like lapel pins, cufflinks, etc., and interior and exterior decorations. At inception, the directors decided to adopt the slogan, "Quality without compromise." This has been the guiding principle of the company so far. Although this principle had led the company to work for major corporations within Nigeria, there have been challenges, especially with dealing with the government sector. There are instances where presentations were made for jobs, even though Dan Valnio Nigeria Limited products were superior to competitors. They still did not get the job due to the dynamics of the Nigerian business environment. Required: A. Enumerate the marketing orientations. B. Discuss briefly any 4 of the marketing orientations identified in A above. C. State the marketing orientations guiding Dan Valnio Nigeria Limited's marketing thinking and give reasons for your decisions. Now, when you look at this case study from the story that has just been read to you, the question that follows asking us to enumerate the marketing orientations. There are no mention of marketing orientation in the passage. So that was why I said that a closed-ended kind of case study is usually specific when they ask you questions. Though some of these specific questions may not have any direct bearing with what you find in the passage, in the sense that they may not be like the regular comprehension passages that we come across in English language examinations. We are being asked to enumerate the marketing orientations, which none was mentioned specifically in the passage. Case studies are meant to test your knowledge, residual knowledge, and understanding of concepts and how to apply this concept to real life cases. There are 5 traditional marketing orientation. Some will call it marketing philosophies or marketing concepts. The first, which is the production concept. When you move from production concept, you have the product concept, and from that you have the selling concept, and then you have the marketing concept, and finally you have the societal marketing concept. These are the 5 basic marketing orientation that you are being tested here with this case study question. When you do this, you have answered the question, and you move to the next question that says that you should explain briefly 4 of the 5 that you might have listed in question 1. Simple explanation. For most of us, we should know this. The production concept simply deals with the production of goods in large quantity, in mass, at a low price, and making it accessible to customers or consumers. That is what this concept is all about. They believe that when you produce in mass, your production cost will be low, and then you can play or peg your price at a low value, and ensuring that these products are easily accessible to the consumers. That is what this concept holds. That is the philosophy behind this concept. And then, when you produce things in mass without looking at the quality, you still have a problem. And this is where the product concept comes into play. The idea behind this philosophy is produce quality products. Produce quality products that have high performance, regardless of their price, and regardless of whether they are accessible to the people. Just make sure that your production is of high standard that will pull the market to you. That is the idea behind this philosophy. That too is inadequate and gives rise to the selling concept. Because what is the benefit of having a quality product that is not known? Because there is poor promotion for that product, or a product that is of high quality but high price, and that is not easily purchased by consumers because of the costs or the price attached to the product. And then this gives rise or gave rise to the selling concept or selling orientation, selling marketing orientation, in which it is believed in this orientation that for people to buy your goods, you have to create a kind of inertia in them. You have to create a kind of impulse in them through advertisement, through sales promotion, and other marketing strategies to win or attract buyers. But when you market a commodity without looking at the product quality and the need of the consumers, those you are asking to come and buy, how long or how sustainable do you think this will go or will be? This philosophy failed because the concept was able to attract buyers but not retain them. There was no repeat purchase when this philosophy was being injected into the system. And it gave rise to the marketing concept, in which the need of the consumer was considered, and then they made sure that the product also was able to meet the need of the consumers. And this, of course, did not only bring about an increase in sales, but a retention of market share. But this also is deficient because it doesn't take into consideration the society in which the business is operating. And it finally resulted in the societal marketing concepts that we have today, in which it is not just about the customer alone, but also about the society at large. And this brought rise to what we have, or what we refer to as the corporate social responsibility that we find today all around us. So you've just explained the marketing concept. I explained 5, but you have to explain 4. You've dealt with that. And the final question on this, they were asking, what is the marketing orientation that this organization was adopting or adopted? And it's simple. From the phrase you have in the sentence, they say that the company slogan is quality without compromise. That says it all. They are after quality. This is the product concept. They don't mind to produce quality product with high performance, even at an expensive price. So you've answered the question. So there is nothing so strange about case studies. Nothing so strange. For the purpose of time, We'll move to the second. I give you another example, a kind of case, an open-ended case study. You find that in page